Hello, my name is Kelly Lemon and I am a buy-to-let property investor, real estate investor based in the UK. And I'm making this video because quite often people are told just jump and the net will appear. You know, just look for the property and the money will come. And actually, I couldn't disagree more. If you jump and there's no net, then you fall flat on your face and go splat. So I'm not really a big believer in that kind of ethos. Yes, I'm a big believer in kind of taking action, but I believe that you need to take action that's very calculated and kind of in line with your strategy and all those sorts of things. So I'm making this video because an investor recently asked me, you know, I'm on Rightmove. Rightmove, if you're not aware, is basically, it's a bit like the Google for property, real estate in the UK. So if you're looking to buy a property or rent a property or land or commercial property or all those sorts of things, most of them are on Rightmove. Not all of them, but most of them are on Rightmove, and it's a free website. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in this particular video. But somebody said to me, you know, I'm looking on Rightmove, I'm just looking, you know, I'm just getting out there. And I'm like, okay, great. Where are you going? You know, you're just getting out there, which, yes, I can understand taking action. But if it's not calculated action, you're just running around like a busy fool. In fact, when I started investing in property many, many moons ago, I would sort of just, you know, kind of employ various strategies, you know, throw it against the wall, see what stuck and all that sort of stuff. And actually, it was really frustrating because it was so overwhelming. I found that when you don't know what you're looking for, when you're not kind of specific about that, it can just be super overwhelming. And actually for me and my personality type, it kind of led to procrastination. And actually, I wish the things that I know now and that I'm kind of sharing now would have been available then, because it would have made it a lot easier. So that's what this video is about. And I just wanted to kind of say that when I'm talking about this, in fact, let me just fast forward. I've created a PDF and a video which shows you how to use Rightmove, and it shows you kind of how to look for properties and also formulate a set of questions. And you formulate those questions, and in essence, that desktop due diligence before you even step foot in the property and do a viewing. So that's one of the things I've done to help with it. But the reason I tell you that is because what I think you need to know before you start looking at Rightmove is your strategy. You need to be super clear on your strategy. Now, I have developed a sales system which basically is based on a windmill, and there's more about that in another video. But the first S is strategy, because it's absolutely the most important. Because are you looking for a HMO? Are you looking for a flip? Are you looking for a traditional buy-to-let? What kind of tenant type are you looking for? What sort of area are you looking at? What's the demographics? All those sorts of things. There's so many different questions that you need to be asking and answering in that strategy section. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by that, because even though I say there's loads of questions, they're all very simple questions. And I remember doing a training not that long ago and kind of working through those questions with a group of people, and they were like, oh, okay. And they understood the logic behind those questions. But you want to be really clear on your strategy. Don't just go to Rightmove, you know, throw in a postcode, throw in a city and see what comes up. You will just be chasing your tail. You'll be there for hours. You will become completely overwhelmed, and you actually won't do anything with it. You won't be able to move forward. And loads of investors I see, because obviously I meet loads of investors, they just can't get off the starting blocks. And I think this is a big part of the reason why. You also want to know your budget, and you want to know kind of what sort of level you're talking about. And again, something I hear all the time in property is find the property and the money will come. I don't necessarily agree with that. I agree in taking action, but actually those two roles, finding the asset and finding the way to finance the asset, actually work hand in hand. And if you just find the property, find what it is that you want to purchase, and then go, great, the money will come. I've actually been in that situation and the money doesn't come. And then again, what happens is you fall flat on your face. So if you're not actively helping the money come, if you're not actively doing that, and I've got other videos as to how you do that, then it's not going to match up. So again, if you go into a shop and you've got no idea what your budget is, you just cannot bring that criteria down. It's a bit like going to, you know, a shop, a food shop, with no shopping list. It's absolutely crazy, and yet people do this time and time again. And what they tend to do is they tend to then go for more expensive tools. So I go to a lot of property networking events because quite often I give speeches there, and there's loads of tools that you can use. But actually what they're doing is they're just overcomplicating it, because the person using the tool still needs to do that basic foundational work. And then once you've done that, it doesn't matter the tool that you use, it's actually loads easier. And knowing your area. So again, this kind of comes as part of your strategy, because you may pick an area, but most areas are massive. So you've got to you don't have to, but what's going to help this process is being a lot clearer on which part of that area. Because as most of you will know, even where you live yourself, you've got good bits of town, bad bits of town, expensive, cheaper, different demographics. This demographic likes to live in this part of town, this demographic likes to live in that part of town, this is where there's amenities, this is where there's transport links. So actually not all areas are the same. So once you've kind of got that headline of the area, you then want to sort of break it down into smaller subcategories so you know where it is you're looking. And I think as part of this process, the other thing I've created actually is a checklist. And in that checklist, it flushes out some of these questions, but also it's kind of what's your non-negotiables, what's an absolute must, because, and again, I've talked about this in another video, when you do a viewing, it can be very emotional and you start making emotional decisions. So at this stage, when you're on the desktop part of the exercise, this is when you really work, you work with your head, you work with logic, you work with data, you work with your criteria. Because if you don't, and you go to the viewing and your emotional mind starts to take over, then you've got real challenges that are usually very expensive. So what are the deal breakers? What's an absolute must? And then it will help you when you go to those viewings and not be swayed on them. So those are some of the things that, when I first started and I just looked at it and I looked at Rightmove and I just went out there and it was all about taking action. What I realised is that's great, and I'm not knocking taking action, but what I am knocking is taking action with no clear purpose or clear strategy behind it, because then you just get worn out, you get confused, you get overwhelmed, and you kind of get a bit disheartened. And again, there's quite a lot of people I meet in property that I'm kind of like, this is really simple. It's not easy, but it can be very, very simple, particularly if it's broken down, in a very easy way, which is one of the things I try to do. But they just get overwhelmed, and it's like, it just looks too hard. I'm going to stick my money in stocks or stick it in crypto or wherever. And I just think it's such a shame, actually, because what they've done is they've tried to eat an elephant all at once in one sitting, and actually that's just not the best way of doing it. So those are some of the things I would advise when you're looking at Rightmove, and use it with intention. That's the thing I would say. Every tool can be helpful if it's used correctly. Otherwise, it's just a tool. And so the two things that can really help you here is the checklist. That will help you get clear on your strategy, and I'll have a link with this video and you can download that. The other thing is actually a video tutorial of how to use Rightmove. So a lot of the things I've covered in this video, but also then the technical aspect, okay? Then some of the tips and tricks, some of the tools it's got free on the website. It's a complete free website that will help you narrow that down a little bit further. And that video, you can actually see me. I've done it in a previous training. You can actually see me go, find a property, share my screen, and just follow me go through that process. And then I've created a PDF that goes alongside it. So I think those tools will really help you if you're at the stage now where you're like, I just want to get going. I want to invest in property. I want to buy a buy-to-let property or real estate. I just want to get into it, and I'm just going to go for it. That's great. This video is to help harness that and to say, great, that enthusiasm, that wanting to take action, all of that's really good. However, before you kind of go and get lost, here's a map. And that's kind of what this is for. So those are the two things that I think will be really helpful. And if you are at the start of your journey, or you're early on your journey, or you're just in your journey, but actually it can be quite lonely investing in buy-to-let property, then both of those, or I'll give you another link, join my community. And there you can find out a bit more about me, you can find out about how I built my portfolio, and you can ask a question. You've got any questions, just shoot me an email and I'll come back to you. And actually it's those questions that are helping me come up with these videos, because I know what people are actually struggling with. And they're the things that are so easy to overcome. So that community really is kind of based for people that are doing this journey. They're excited, they're interested about property, they want to kind of move forward, but actually they kind of want a bit of support, a community alongside them, and a peer group that are kind of doing similar things. So those links should be with this video. I hope you got some value from it. If there's anything I would say is, don't jump. The net won't appear. If you're going to jump, make sure you've got a parachute and make sure you've got a clear objective of what you're doing. So that is kind of the key bit that I want you to get from this video. My name is Kelly Lemon. Like I said, I am a buy-to-let property investor, and you'll find out loads more information if you go to my website. That kind of gives you all the context and the background. But I hope that you've got some value, even just a nugget from this video. Yeah, thanks for your time.